I must warn you, the story I'm about to tell is not the one you were taught in school. The medieval world is often painted in images of shining knights, holy crusades, and kings seated on golden thrones. That is the tale of banners and glory, the tale written to inspire loyalty and faith. But beneath those bright images lay another world, a hidden one. Whispers of strange gatherings drifted through villages, rumors of rituals performed not in churches, but in forests, cellars, and forgotten ruins, acts that blurred the line between devotion, superstition, and forbidden desire. The church called them sins, branding them the work of the devil. The nobles called them secrets, too dangerous to ever be spoken in the open. But the common people, they saw them differently. For them, such rituals were not just rebellion, they were survival, protection against famine, plague, and fear itself. So, stay with me, for what you are about to hear will peel back the gilded surface of the Middle Ages and reveal a darkness that will change how you see that era forever. I remember stepping into the great cathedrals, where incense hung thick in the air and the chants of monks rolled endlessly through the echoing stone halls. By day, these towering places felt like the very heart of purity, sanctuaries where light spilled through stained glass and painted the floors with sacred color. But at night, when the candles burned low and the doors were locked, those same walls told a different story. Whispers lingered in the shadows, whispers the priests would never dare admit aloud. In forgotten manuscripts and private letters, there are accounts of strange ceremonies held behind closed doors, rituals that blended faith with flesh, devotion with desire. Chants of prayer were said to intertwine with gestures, and acts meant to cleanse the soul in ways unspoken. To the common worshiper, such things would sound like blasphemy. Yet for those who took part, it was something more, an attempt to touch the divine by breaking the very rules they preached. The clergy stood in pulpits warning the people of sin, but among their own ranks, some quietly crossed that forbidden line. It was never love they sought in these midnight gatherings. It was power, power over the mind, the spirit, and yes, even the body. To the true believer, these rituals were holy mysteries, hidden truths of faith. To the skeptic, they were corruption in its darkest form, a shadow growing inside the very house of God. Do not think the shadows stopped at the church doors. No, they seeped into the very heart of power itself. In the castles of Europe, the nobility designed their own secret rituals, not rituals of faith, but rituals of control. By day, their halls glittered with music, feasts, and laughter. But when the banquet tables were cleared, when the servants slipped quietly away, another world emerged. Hidden doors creaked open in the stone walls, and velvet curtains were drawn to shield the eyes of the uninvited. Behind them, the air grew heavy with candle smoke and the scent of spiced wine. Symbols, carved into wood or stitched into banners, were revealed like passwords to an inner circle. Oaths were whispered across goblets, sealed not with love, but with ambition. These ceremonies were the threads by which power was woven, marriages arranged in silence, alliances forged in secrecy, and heirs conceived not through chance, but through deliberate design. To outsiders, what followed might appear as nothing more than a celebration of family or tradition. Yet to those within, every movement, every vow, every exchange was carefully staged theater. The message was always clear. In this world, bloodlines mattered more than hearts. The noble rituals were not about passion, nor about affection. They were about politics, fertility, and fear, the fear that without such performances, entire dynasties might crumble into dust. And so, beneath the shining crowns and the polished smiles, shadows danced in silence, reminding all who partook that even the most intimate acts could be instruments of power. The strangest rituals of all were not found in palaces or mighty cathedrals, but in the humble villages, hidden deep within the forests. Far from the eyes of kings and priests, the common folk carved out their own traditions, passed down through whispers and memory. By torchlight, peasants formed circles in the darkness, their shadows flickering across the trees as they sang chants older than any scripture. Bread was broken and shared, mead poured into clay cups while herbs smoldered on the fire, sending strange smoke curling into the night sky. These ceremonies were not mere gatherings. They were lifelines, born from fear of famine, plague, and the unknown forces that shaped their fragile lives. Some believed the body itself was sacred, a vessel brimming with hidden power. Through ritual touch, chants, and gestures, they sought fertility for barren fields, protection for newborn children, or healing for the sick. To the villagers, it was not indulgence, it was survival. The church condemned such acts as heresy, branding them the work of witches. Yet still the people gathered, believing their very lives depended on it. Farmers swore their harvests were richer after the rites, while families claimed plague spared their homes when others fell. Did these rituals truly change the world? Perhaps not in the way they hoped, but in times of desperation, belief itself became the greatest power. And belief, once rooted in the human heart, can grow stronger than reason, stronger even than fear. But every shadow has a price. The church did not turn a blind eye forever. When whispers of these ceremonies reached the ears of priests and bishops, mercy was a word quickly forgotten. Accusations spread like wildfire, and suspicion alone could doom an entire village. Men and women, sometimes even children, were seized, dragged into stone courts, and placed before stern-faced judges. They were asked impossible questions, and when silence fell, it was taken as guilt. Confessions were wrung not from truth, but from fear. Fear of torture, fear of the stake, fear of losing one's family and land. Punishments were not meant to correct, they were meant to terrify. Bodies displayed, names erased, communities shattered. Each sentence was a performance, staged to remind everyone watching that no ritual, no belief outside the church's blessing would be tolerated. Over time, the ceremonies did not vanish, but slipped deeper into secrecy. Songs were whispered softer, fires burned lower, and oaths were passed only in hushed voices. Yet the memory of what had been done, the arrests, the trials, the executions, lingered like a scar across generations. The lesson was carved into history itself. Whatever was done in the shadows could never fully escape the burning light of judgment. The Middle Ages was an age of contradiction, a world lived with two faces. By daylight, people filled the cathedrals, bowing before priests and kings, sermons echoed across villages, hymns rose through stone walls, and holy law shaped every corner of life. To question it was to risk your soul and your life. But when the sun fell, another world emerged. Behind closed doors, mothers whispered charms over feverish children, farmers traced ancient signs into the soil, begging for rain or protection. These small rituals were not acts of rebellion, but desperate prayers for survival. Yet within castles and monasteries, shadows grew thicker. Nobles carved strange symbols into wood, binding alliances with rituals hidden from the world. Priests who thundered about sin by day crossed into secrecy at night, driven not by love of God, but by hunger for influence and control. And so, across medieval Europe, one truth lingered. Fear ruled the day, secrecy ruled the night. The darkest rituals were never only about flesh or faith. They were about the timeless human need to grasp power, love, and survival in a world where life was fragile and death always near. Centuries later, those rituals survive only in whispers, in fragile manuscripts, in half-remembered tales passed from one generation to the next. They are shadows on parchment, echoes of voices that once dared to challenge fear with belief. We can barely picture them now, yet they remind us of something eternal: humanity's desperate need to make sense of suffering, to search for meaning even in the darkest corners of life. Were they sins, condemned by the Church? Acts of survival, born out of hunger and fear? Or perhaps simply the echoes of people refusing to surrender to a cruel and unforgiving world? Their legacy is not found in the rituals themselves, but in the questions they leave behind. And so I leave you with this thought: if priests, nobles, and villagers once carried such secrets in the shadows, what secrets might we still carry in ours?